with a conversation between myself and Manny. Now, we've had a bit of a chat over LinkedIn, and we had a call last week, didn't we, Manny, about what you do, why you're passionate about what you do, and hopefully we're going to be doing some stuff we are going to be doing some stuff together with some MANUP and teaming up to kind of change some of the conversations around mental health. Just tell me what got you into this and why you're so passionate about it and why you want to make a difference.
100%. So my name's Manny. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and like everyone, I've been taught to sort of have this hard posterior, especially in the sort of industry that I'm in, where I'm lifting weights all day, I'm out in the field, practicing and just being an athlete. And I think all that pressure can quickly come to an end as well. So with me, when I was 16, 17, I had an injury where I dislocated my shoulder, and then from there it was a lot of doctor's appointments telling me that I can't do sport, I can't do this, I can't do that, where my life up until that point was just, you're an athlete, you train every day, Monday to Friday, and then you play Saturday, Sunday, and then from there you're sort of just like, oh wow, that part of me is gone, what do I do now? So I struggled quite heavily with sort of my mental health and how I was getting perceived now in this world where I couldn't do what I love to do. So for me, it was more of that, what do I do now? Where do I go? It didn't help that at that point, one of my friends died in a car crash as well. So it was just like one thing on top of the other. So that kind of led me down to some sort of dark thoughts and some unwanted thoughts as well. And then from there, it's just sort of like there's obviously these peaks and valleys that happen with my mental health, especially like because of the industry that I do and how I've been able to climb to the sort of platform that I am. Like I do have really high highs, but sometimes when I'm myself and sort of locked in the house, I'm just like, that's when I experience my darkest moments where I'm alone with my thoughts, and I'm just like, what am I actually doing here? Is there a purpose for me? And how can that purpose be insightful to someone else? So like you just mentioned, when I sort of reached out to you on LinkedIn, I was going through one of those moments where everything was just dark. There was just no light for me, and I'm fortunate enough to sort of like have my own podcast, have my own YouTube, social medias, coach at a high level. But there's this sense that nothing matters. There's just darkness. There's just blandness. It's like this gray zone that we're in mentally, and I kind of want to change that for men. And obviously, I'm not able to single-handedly change that. But if I can at least get a conversation going, and someone at least comes up to me and says, actually, that speech really helped, or this podcast really helped, like that to me means more than anything else that I've sort of been doing up until this point.
Yeah.
So the reason for me reaching out was more so that because of what I'm doing and the platform I have and the importance I place on my mental health, I kind of wanted to do something that proves to men that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to open up and let people in and things like that. Because like I'm notoriously bad. My partner will tell you that getting a conversation out with me about my feelings is like drawing blood from a stone. But I'm constantly working on it and improving on it. It's not. It doesn't happen immediately. It's a slow progress, but as soon as you start making that progress, you do start feeling a little bit better.
But I bet your partner's can see things in you when that, for using your kind of terminology, when that darkness is starting to creep back in again, and there's little behavior shifts, maybe change in language, different patterns that you kind of slip back into, and And that's part of the thing, isn't it? Like, to have that somebody who can spot that as it starts to come along at very early stages makes a big difference. And we regularly talk about, like, when it's got into that full darkness mode, that's the hardest bit to come back from. Whereas if you've got someone who can kind of almost, what I'm a bit afraid, intervene, have an intervention when you're just kind of starting to see that darkness at the end of the tunnel kind of creeping in, that can have such a positive impact. And
1000%.
Do you think your partner can kind of see that and help you kind of pull you out of it, or do you think you're so close and it's hard to kind of let go of anything? Do you know what I mean?
No, she can definitely tell. So I'm quite extroverted, sorry. So if, like, when I start going a little bit quieter, or when I start, like, reserving myself, or just, like, wanting to isolate myself, or just listen to music all the time, that's when she knows, like, the cycle is starting to re-emerge. So she'll try and do different little things. Like, I love going to the beach, and I think I mentioned that during our first call, where
you did,
on my birthday, every single year I go to the beach myself. I light up a little campfire, have a notebook with me, have my surfboards with me, and I just have a complete mental health day, where it's just that opportunity for me to write anything that I have going on, anything good, maybe not as good, just write everything down. I'm at the beach myself for the whole day, and I just sort of it's that time for me to reset and really, like, ground myself with everything that I've been doing. Like, I think that to me is one of the best things I do.
How did you start doing that? Because, like, what I loved about the first time when you're talking about how that's such a great idea to have that one day, even if that's just the one day you can do that, to have that little bit of a reset, reflection time by yourself, because that can make a phenomenal difference. And I'm sure it makes a phenomenal difference to you. That's why you still do it. Like, how did that start? How did you come about starting to do that? Was it from a book, or just someone told you?
No. So what happened was, it was during lockdown, 2020. We all infamously know how that went for everyone.
Yeah.
But so I caught, like, my birthday's in April, so I caught, like, the first month, and I was just essentially just sick of being at home. And you got that hour away, but, like, where I live, there's not much going on or anyone walking around. So for me, I just escaped to the beach. I just ran away to the beach, and I took my boards, I took my journals, I took everything that I could to sort of make me comfortable for a couple hours. I got this, like, I made the fire, brought wood with me, got little teapots and all that things to sort of keep me going for that day. I just sat down and just, like, thought about everything, thought about nothing, wrote down stuff, went into the water. That cold water is quite nice when you're trying to think or not think. So for me, it was just more like I kind of wanted to escape a little bit. So I just decided, like, what do I love doing? So I just went and took the car, packed everything in, and just went. And it's something that I've sort of, this is coming up 4 years now, and it's one of the best things that I started doing.
I mean, it's so powerful, isn't it? Like, and what I love about, there's so many different elements, like what you've described there. It's that whole build up to it, that journey of, right, I can just keep going because I've got this coming up. I can have that time to sit down and reflect. It's when you get there, you're looking back on everything. It's the setting up. It's the impact of the fire, it's the impact of the cold, it's the impact of doing the surfing, something like you love. It's being out in nature. Like, all those elements combined could just become something a lot more powerful than just having a day to myself. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I think what's important as well is, like, after I do my mental health day, I'll come home, and my partner will obviously say, like, how was your day? And then that also gives me the opportunity to be like, this is what I thought about, this is what I did, this is where I think I can move forward from these things that are happening in my life, this is where I want to sort of achieve for this year. And it's that thing where I'm taking that one day to just, like, gather all my thoughts, because like our heads can be so busy, specifically in this world right now where social media is a big thing. You're constantly having reminders of, oh, you need to do more, you need to do this, you need to be a man, you need to do a million and one different things to prove to yourself and others that you're a man, that you sort of forget, like, okay, but like what actually makes me happy? What do I love to do? And it's sort of like that thing where, as opposed to like looking outside in, I'm looking inside out, and it's just for me, it's the best thing.
Can you quantify like what it feels like after you've done that, like in the coming days? And is there like, I'm assuming that there'll be instant impact, and then it's like maybe the days, the weeks, the months after. Like, what comes from that time?
I think it's more like, for me, it's more I have a plan now, so from then it's like making actionable steps towards that inner peace in a sense. So like obviously like that day I'm relaxed, I'm fine, and then you sort of just like, because you already know what you want to do and it's laid out and planned, it sort of takes that pressure of like waking up in the morning and be like, oh, I need to do this, 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 and this. I need to do that and then take care of this. So for me, I get a sense that I'm a big planner. I have journals for everything. So for me, it's just that reset where I feel this calmness because everything's already planned. I don't have to wake up in the morning and just like, right, I need to do this, and then that leads me to this, and then that leads me to that. So for me, it's just like this piece that sort of trickles down from it.
I mean, the journal stuff again. That's another really. I struggle with the journal. Like I've tried it a couple of times, just can't do it. Like I'd love to pick your brains on like what are you, obviously don't go into specifics, but like when you journal, like what are you writing down? What are you documenting? Does it change every time? You have like a set structure? Like talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I read a book a while back called The Chimp Paradox.
Yeah.
And it sort of describes this feeling inside you that sort of like weighs you down and just has like this impact on you. So in that book, it sort of like asks you to name this character that's weighing you down, and then go from there. So I have different journals for everything. Like I've got my to-do journals. I always have like a notepad next to me in case I need to write anything down immediately. But this Chimp Paradox book sort of taught me to like name it. Like you need to name that character that's inside you. That's the darkness. So for me, I called it the chimp. I was very artistic with the naming process on this one. So it's called the chimp, and then every bad feeling that I have just sort of goes into that. So not to get confused with every other journal I have, that one just stays there, and I just pull it out whenever like I'm feeling my lowest, I'm feeling at my highest, and that just start writing what I feel. It doesn't have like a specific process. I just start writing and see what comes out. And I think that's a good way to at least start to visualize what you're going through. Like it could be like a minor inconvenience, but that can have a trickle down effect on everything else that you do. Like me and my partner often talk about, like with our busy lives, so much happens that if you stub your toe, everything comes out. It wasn't the stub in the toe that sort of caused this reaction, but it was like that final straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
So I think having a specific journal and like making sure that you're in a place where no one can touch that one, like because that's where you're confiding in realistically. So even if you've like got kids or partner or whatever, if they see that journal, it's that thing of do not touch that journal. I think it's creating that boundary as well where you can have that safe space to just let everything go.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so important, because actually, if that's the like the dark stuff, if you like, and that, I mean, you said that you put good and bad into it, like some of that could be quite disturbing for someone else to read, but like those thoughts that are just passing thoughts, instant stuff, or something a bit bigger, could be someone else pick that up. They wouldn't be interpreting that the way that you do. Do you know what I mean? Like you can interpret an email or a text so many different ways depending on what mood you're in and how you read it. Like someone picking that up at the right, wrong, or whatever time and reading it. I think that's so important. What you said is having that boundary to be able to say, like, this is me, this is my what I do, this is how I write it down. I mean, interestingly, do you ever go back and look at the stuff that you've written down, or you just write it down and treat it like as a discharge and leave it, or do you ever go back?
It depends. It really depends. On the earlier stuff, I don't look back as much. I like to look at the good parts mostly, because I think it's good to remind yourself of what you've achieved and how far you've came. The bad stuff, I tend to just write it and sort of try and move on and make actionable steps towards creating a safer zone. So it depends on what it is. Like if I'm quite like songs take me back to certain points of my life.
Yeah.
So if I want to recall that moment, I'll put a song on. I won't read what I'm feeling, but I'll listen to the song. It'll transport me back, and I can sort of just reminiscing on those moments. So I think for me, instead of reading it and get lured back into that mental space, I'll just listen to a song and just memorize and reminiscing on what I felt back then.
And is that because the song's got a time limit on? Does that give you the closure at the end of it to be like almost compartmentalize and say, right, done, that song's finished, I'll like move on to something else?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Probably, I've never thought about it, but yeah, I think there might be something into that.
Yeah,
That's a good way to look at it as well. Yeah, I like
do you know,
that.
I love that. I love how you do that. I love how you kind of document that stuff and kind of. I mean, can we just delve a little bit? Obviously, don't go into specifics. Like, say something like you're sat in front of your journal and a negative thought comes up or a negative process. And the reason I'm asking you this is there'll be people out there that watch this and listen to this stuff and think, well, like, what? How do I start? How do I get going with this stuff? And like, if there was something that's happened that you think is a negative, use the example of stub your toe, but it's a symptom of something else.
Mm-hmm.
Say that happens to you, like, what do you do?
So for me, I'll be honest. Like I said at the start that I think truth is the best way to go about things. Like for me, financial worries has always been a big thing. So in terms of like when I'm really scratching to figure out how I'm going to escape from the situation or progress from the situation, for me, I just again I write on my journal and like what strengths do I have? I would always start by strengths, and it doesn't have to be like a a massive list of every qualification that you have, every thing you've ever done. It could just be like two or three different like strengths. What do I have? Like I would like to say I'm a good coach and I'm a good listener. So I would just write that down. Take a journal, a piece of paper. Like everyone's got some type of writing material at their disposal. So just write down two strengths. From there, write down not negatives. I would never recommend anyone writing down negatives. I would write down work-ons. It's technically the same thing, but you're talking about it in a way that's more positive. So for me, my work-ons are my spending habits. I like to eat. So for me, I like to eat out. I could realistically make food at home. I know how to cook. I can do that. But because I'm so busy all the time, I just do what's easier.
Mm.
So for me, my work on would be to meal prep for that that day or that week. So going from that, then what can I do to sort of make my financial situations better? So if by going to the shop, buying all the ingredients, it's cheaper than buying that meal and having it delivered. You've got the food fee and the delivery fee. And then prep time is just time that you're going to have to spend. And during that time, I also feel like it's a way for me to like set that zone again, where it's just like clear. I like to put on a podcast, put on music, and like my girlfriend gives me a lot of stick for this stuff, but like I'll start singing my heart out. I'll blast a tune. I'm horrible at singing, but I will just sing out. Or I'll listen to a podcast. I like comedy type podcasts,
Right.
which will get you to laugh as well.
Yeah.
Like it's that sense of humor thing coming out, and then you're just like in this sort of safe zone. So it's really just writing down some strengths first of all, because you need to realize how far you've came and everything that you're doing that's good, and then writing down those work-ons where it's going to lead to something positive. It's going to lead to an actionable change. So that's how I would recommend people starting, and that's how I started. Like I like to read, and I'm dyslexic, so like reading for me is hard. But I made that point to learn, not to learn how to read, but to read more than what would be recommended for me. I don't believe that just because I'm dyslexic, I should stop doing one thing. I think these are all things that we need to constantly improve and work on. So for me, it was just like reading books, and then I came across Chimp Paradox. I came across Conscious Coaching. I came across different books that have sort of helped me build my character and my career.
I love that. I love how you frame that, and I love how you said start off with the positives. Don't write down the negatives, and it's not like you said. It's not lots of strength. It's 2 or 3, and then by writing that down and looking, I'm a big believer in this. Like I talk to clients all the time about think with ink. Like writing stuff down on a piece of paper is so powerful. Like when you talk about goals, and you probably say this with your clients when you coach them as well, is like write that stuff down. Otherwise, it's just a dream. Write your stuff down, make it real, like put that out into the universe and all that kind of stuff. It's like you committing to very first step of making change and kind of working towards it. I love that how you do that and kind of work through it.
I've got like at the start of the year, I've got like I don't believe in the whole new year, new me thing. But like at the start of every year, I'll write specific goals that I have for that year. And it's just goals. Like some of them are achievable, some of them are way out there, but I'm constantly working towards achieving them.
Yeah.
So like for me, having a journal for everything sort of helps me as well compartmentalize everything that I've got going on. So yeah, just writing down. And there's a study that has suggested that where if you write down something, you're more likely to achieve it and sort of become that thing.
Yeah.
Like going back to my athletes at the start of the year, I pull them up and I say like, what's your athletic goal for this year? And then they'll tell me, and then I'll write that down. And I tell them, when you get home, write it down, put it on a sticky note, put it somewhere that you see every day. And that could just be like words of affirmation as well. Like that works. Like when you see or when you tell yourself, I am such, I am this, I am that. That's quite powerful as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess the other way, it's so powerful the other way around when we're in that negative cycle as well. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes hard to kind of break that. But like I'm a massive believer in that as well. Like I remember hearing a Jim Rohn quote, and I'm obviously going to write it in the finances, and he said, you haven't got a list of goals written down, I bet it can guess your bank balance. Because otherwise you're just kind of drifting and going through. And he's really powerful in that. And if you've ever listened to any Jim Rohn stuff, then go and give him a listen. He's a phenomenal speaker, like from years ago, I think in the 50s. But the way he delivers these talks is just incredible. Like you're just hooked from the start. He's very, very good at what he does. And one of the other things that we kind of that you've talked about there is your athletes and your training. That stuff's obviously really important to you, and that kind of helps you mentally as well. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was like you wanted to get involved and kind of make a bigger difference in the mental health space, hence us having a conversation. You want to run some pretty extreme, is extreme the right word? Some of these challenges that you kind of want to do to bring some attention to this topic and get some people involved?
Yeah, you could say that. I think that would be a fair assessment. So yes, I think that change comes in steps, and when you're sort of, again, there's different feelings and how different people feel things. But for me, when I'm going through these hard times, I kind of feel like I'm being weighed down by myself, and I'm sort of like having to drag myself through life. So yeah, I think when we wanted to make a change, I think it's important to sort of have these conversations and want to do changes and make changes. And I think that was a big part why I reached out to you, was that because I was going through something right there and then, I wanted to make a change, and I wanted to sort of, I'm obviously aware that I'm a single person and I can't change everyone's thoughts and feelings, but if I can at least get a conversation started on this topic and how it's approached in society, I think that things can start getting better for us. And I was very honest with you, and my partner pulled me up and was like, I don't know why society's put this pressure on men that they can't talk. And she essentially spoke some hard truths, which kind of hurt. But at the same time, like, I know where her intentions were, and I know what she was trying to say was actually to benefit me. So that's why I messaged you straight away, and I was just like, look, I want to make a change. Can we put something on to get people to talk about it? And that's why I thought about the prowler drag, or where physically I'm experiencing what I feel mentally. I think that's a good way of putting it. So I kind of wanted to do a 24-hour challenge where it challenges mentally and then physically, where I'm obviously having to pull something that's heavy, and then that a 24-hour element of the challenge is more so to raise as much attention as I can to this very specific. I want to say downfall in society, where men are having to be perceived as this strong and courageous people who don't really talk about their feelings or cry or do anything to do with their emotions. And on that process and the build up towards that, like I mentioned to you, I want to do as many workshops as I can where men come in, work out with me, or like a program that I've put together, and we can sort of just talk. Like, we don't have to voice everything. We can just be there. Like, being present, I think sometimes is better than being uncomfortable and talking about certain situations. I think there's different ways that people feel connected and comfortable to other people. So I think that just at least being there, and if you want to talk, that's amazing. I'll share my experience. I've got no shame in my experience and how I've gone to the place that I am. But like, it's just a space where people can talk, and I think that's what would be the best thing for societies to start thinking to themselves, like, yeah, it's okay to talk.
That's it. I mean, we were talking about this during the week. Like, me and another couple of the trustees got together and kind of just had a bit of a natter and recorded it all. And like, there's no right or wrong answer for anybody, and that's the beauty and also part of the frustration about it. Like, if there was just one thing that everybody could do to make you feel better and press the button or do go and sit down on the beach for 20 minutes and everything's clear. Do you know what I mean? Like that's simple to fix. You can just tell everybody to go and do that and organize it and happy days, but it's so individual and so different for everybody. That's why it's I guess a challenge. I know that's why it's also quite an interesting space to be in, because some stuff you look at and you'd be like, that's not me. And Dan made a great example. He's like, he couldn't sit around he'd find it difficult to sit around in a room full of guys and talk about their feelings and thoughts because he's not an emotional kind of person. But what he could do is he regularly takes himself away and spends 2 days wild camping or 3 days up a mountain somewhere, and it just resets him. You go to the beach. Like for me, it's the exercise and a little bit every single day that I've got to do to kind of keep on top of it. And that's why I like it. And I think it's about that perseverance and keep trying, because there will be something out there that can help. There will be something out there that can make a difference. And the more we as individuals, charities and men talk about this stuff, the more opportunity and the more, I guess, the bigger the spotlight's going to be on this stuff. And specifically in the charity space, what I find frustrating, and I know other people do as well, is it almost feels like all these charities are in competition with each other. Like for me, it would just be a case of like, if we all just combined our resources and pulled everything together and just worked on something on a bigger level, it would make a massive difference. But we're all doing it differently and have these different ideas. It's not a competition, it's not a race. It's like all of us pushing in that one direction.
100%. I think that's where a lot of these problems come from as well. It's like we think that we need to be the best at everything that we're sort of in our space. And and I say this to all the coaches that I've been mentored by, and anyone that's a coach that speaks to me, I'm always very honest with them. I was like, I speak to as many people as possible so I can learn. Like you can learn from a different way that I learn, but if we come together and we're sort of coaching with each other or coaching each other, we'll pick up cues that we've never thought about before. Like it's about having these conversations and trying to collectively move to get the domain or space that you're in to a better place. Like my biggest bane with my industry is like this TikTok, Instagram strength and conditioning community where they're just like doing all the flashy stuff, but they neglect the fundamentals, the being a human for your athletes. Like when I'm coaching, I like to bring out myself as well. Like I'll be honest with them. I'll say, look, I messed up on this area. I was supposed to say 5 sets, but I said 3 instead. So let's get another 2 in. That's my mistake, my bad. And I think that connects your athlete or person to seeing you as this higher authority or higher power or coach or whatever, and it kind of takes you back to being a human. And I think that's where, like, it's also owning up to you're not going to be good at everything, so why not just own up to your downfalls and sort of just being like, yeah, I'll learn from it. I'll speak to different coaches. Like my podcast, I'm 30 episodes in. I spoke to different types of coaches, different industries, and I learn from it all the time, because for me, it's a way for me to get better, and working collectively is the only way we can do that.
Awesome. We could keep going for hours, couldn't we? Like, I love this stuff, and I think
it's like I've went on tangents as well, so I do apologize for that.
No, like, listen, that's why we do this stuff. And like I said to you at the start, like, what I love about what we do at MANUP is, like, it's 2 blokes that could be sat in a bar having a pint or having a cup of coffee or taking the dogs for a walk or sat on a beach, whatever it is. It's just 2 guys having a chat about what they do, and that's why I love doing this stuff. And what I'd love to ask you, and keep it as concise as possible, is 2 questions. Forgotten the bloody questions. We've started asking this when we got on the streets and ask people. It's, what's your perception of mental health? What does mental health mean to you? And how do you manage your mental health? And try and keep it as concise as possible. We're going to ask everybody this from now on. just because there could be something really powerful in a couple of sentences when you try and condense it. The hard bit is condensing it down to just a couple of sentences.
So mental health for me is how I feel in my headspace and how that is impacted by how I perceive things. How I work on my mental health is I actively try and speak to the right people, or try and do things that give me that mental health reset. Like for me, it's going to the beach. Me and my partner love sea glass picking, so we'll go get sea glass. Or on my birthday, I just have that whole day where it's mental health day.
Love that. Thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for kind of sharing your expertise. And I think there's lots of stuff we're going to do together. I think moving forward, like, we are very much on the same wavelength, and we're going to try and support you as much as we can with the initiatives that you've got, because I know you've got some fantastic ideas and some great ideas. So appreciate your time for coming on.
No, thank you for having me on. And if anyone ever feels like they need to speak to someone, or just send a message, hi. Like, my Instagram is @_coach Manny _ and feel free to send me a message at any time of the day. If I'm asleep, then I'll reply as soon as I wake up, but I will try and get a conversation going.
That's the important bit, isn't it? I'll just stop the record button there, mate. Can find out where the bloody thing is. There we go.